The night was quiet, yet Daniel felt uneasy. He was camping alone at the edge of a forgotten jungle on a distant colony world. The stars above were strange, and the trees around him were taller than any he had ever seen on Earth. He had come as part of a survey mission, but when the others returned to the ship, Daniel stayed behind to gather samples. That decision would change his life forever. A low hum shook the ground beneath him, like the beat of giant drums. The sound grew louder until the jungle itself seemed alive. Leaves rustled, branches snapped, and shadows moved between the trees. Daniel's hand reached for his flashlight, but before he could switch it on, figures appeared from the darkness. They were tall, taller than any human he had seen. Their skin glowed faintly in the moonlight, and their eyes burned like embers. They were women, giant, fierce, and armed with spears tipped in silver light. Their armor was made of bone and crystal, their long hair braided with feathers. They moved like predators, silent and graceful. Daniel stumbled back, fear racing through him. One of them spoke, her voice low yet commanding. "The summoning has begun. The human is here." Before Daniel could understand, two of the warriors seized him. Their grip was iron, their strength overwhelming. He struggled, shouting, "Wait, who are you? What do you want?" But his words were useless. They dragged him into the jungle, their footsteps echoing like thunder. The march was long and endless. Strange symbols glowed on the trees as they passed, like ancient runes carved by forgotten hands. Daniel's heart pounded. He wanted to believe. This was a dream, but the pain in his wrists from their grip told him it was real. Finally, the trees opened to reveal a massive clearing. At its center stood a fortress of stone and fire. Torches burned along its walls, and banners of red silk fluttered in the wind. The fortress pulsed with life. Hundreds of the tall women stood in ranks watching as Daniel was dragged into their midst. Their voices rose in a chant, a deep rhythm that shook his bones. He was pushed to his knees before a platform of black stone. Atop it stood a woman taller and stronger than all the others. Her golden eyes locked on him with cold fire. She wore a crown of jagged crystal, and her armor shimmered with the light of the stars. Daniel knew at once, this was their queen. The chanting fell silent. The queen raised her hand. "The prophecy is true," she declared. "The human has been brought before us. He carries the strongest genes in the galaxy." The crowd roared, a wave of sound that filled the clearing. Some raised their weapons in triumph, others whispered doubts. Daniel's mind spun. Strongest. Genes, prophecy, what did they mean? He was just a man, an ordinary surveyor from Earth. The queen stepped down from her throne and walked toward him. Each step echoed like thunder. She circled him, her gaze sharp as though she was measuring every inch of his body. Finally, she stopped in front of him. "You are Daniel, son of Earth," she said, her voice heavy with power. "You have been chosen. Our people have searched for a mate who carries strength beyond worlds. And now you stand before us." Daniel shook his head, fear and anger mixing inside him. "I didn't choose this. I don't know what you want from me." The queen's eyes narrowed. "What we want is survival. Our kind is fading. We need your strength, your blood, your seed. You are not here by chance. You are here by destiny." The words hit him like a storm. Breeding. That was what they meant. He had been taken not as a prisoner, but as something more, something terrifying. The warriors around him began to chant again, louder this time. The sound was like drums of war, shaking the ground beneath him. Daniel felt his stomach twist. His mind screamed to escape, but there was no way out. Chains of glowing metal were fastened around his wrists, binding him to the stone platform. Above him, the queen raised her spear high. Flames roared from the torches and the banners snapped in the wind. Her voice carried across the fortress. "The summoning is complete. The human will be tested. Only if he proves his worth will he claim his place among us." The crowd erupted, in cheers and roars. Some eyes looked at Daniel with awe, others with hunger, and still others with envy. He could feel the weight of every gaze pressing down on him. He was no longer a man. He was a symbol, a prize, and perhaps a curse. The queen lowered her spear, her golden eyes never leaving his. "Tomorrow, human," she said coldly, "you face the trial of strength. Survive, and you will father the future of our people. Fail, and you will be forgotten." The chains tightened. The chanting grew louder. Daniel's heart raced as fear and disbelief filled him. He had come to this world for science, for exploration. Now he was bound in a fortress of alien Amazons, chosen as their breeding male, and facing a trial that could kill him before dawn. In the silence of his own thoughts, one question echoed louder than the drums, louder than the chants. Why me? And with that question burning inside him, the night closed in, and the summoning was complete. The morning sun rose over the alien jungle, casting red light across the fortress walls. Daniel had not slept. All night, he remained chained inside, a cold stone cell. His wrists ached from the glowing bonds, and his thoughts circled the same questions. Why him? Why here? Why now? But the answers never came. Only fear and silence filled his mind. The heavy doors creaked open. 2 Amazons entered, their armor gleaming like fire. Without speaking, they unlocked his chains and dragged him forward. Daniel resisted, but their grip was unbreakable. He stumbled through the corridors until the walls opened into a vast arena. The arena was carved into the earth itself, a circle of stone surrounded by thousands of alien women. They stood in tiers, chanting and stomping, their feet, their voices shaking the air. Above them, banners of crimson cloth flapped in the wind. The queen sat high upon a throne, her golden eyes sharp and cold. Daniel was shoved into the center of the arena. The ground beneath him was dry and cracked, stained with the marks of old battles. His heart raced. This was not a place for games. It was a place for blood. The queen's voice rang across the arena. "Human, you have been summoned. Now you must prove yourself worthy. Today you face the trial of strength. Only the strong may stand among us. Only the strong may breed with us. Survive, and you live. Fail, and you die." The crowd roared. Spears banged against shields. Daniel's chest tightened. He had no weapon, no armor, only his bare hands and his will to survive. A massive gate on the far side of the arena groaned open. The ground trembled as something heavy moved in the shadows. Daniel's stomach dropped. Out from the darkness stepped a beast unlike anything he had ever seen. It was twice his height, covered in thick scales that shimmered green and black. Its head bore 2 curling horns, and its jaws dripped with saliva. The creature's eyes glowed, red as it let out a roar that made the very stones shake. Daniel froze. The beast charged. He dove to the side just as the monster's claws ripped into the ground where he had been standing. Dust and stone exploded into the air. Daniel scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding. The crowd shouted, some cheering for the beast, others calling for his death. The creature lunged again, its tail whipping across the arena. Daniel ducked, but the impact caught his shoulder, sending him crashing into the dirt. Pain shot through his body. He gasped for air, trying to think, trying to survive. He could not outmatch the beast in strength. He had to use his mind. He looked around quickly, nothing but dirt, stone, and broken pieces of old bones. Yet even bones could be a weapon, as the creature charged again. Daniel rolled aside and grabbed a sharp piece of bone from the ground. When the monster lunged, he thrust it upward, striking the beast's soft underbelly. The creature roared in pain, blood spraying onto the dirt. The crowd gasped. The beast staggered but did not fall. Its eyes burned hotter, its rage now focused entirely on Daniel. He backed away, breathing hard, his hands trembling. The queen leaned forward, her golden eyes unblinking. The creature struck again, jaws snapping shut inches from Daniel's face. He shoved the bone shard into its mouth, forcing it sideways. The monster thrashed, throwing him to the ground. The shard snapped in half. Daniel rolled quickly, barely avoiding the crushing stomp of its clawed foot. He could feel his strength, fading. Every breath was fire in his lungs, every muscle screamed, but he could not stop. He would not let himself die here, not in front of them, not as their sacrifice. An idea sparked in his mind. The beast was fast, but it was also heavy. Its weight cracked the ground with every step. If he could not kill it with strength, maybe he could use the arena itself. He ran, drawing the beast after him. Around and around he circled, forcing it to chase. Each time, the monster's claws dug deeper into the earth, weakening the cracked stone floor. The crowd screamed, confused, angry, curious. Finally, with one last burst of energy, Daniel darted past a weakened patch of ground and leapt aside. The beast lunged after him, its full weight crashing down. The stone beneath it gave way. With a deafening roar, the creature fell into the pit of broken rock below. The arena went silent. Dust rose into the air. The ground trembled as the beast thrashed, but it could not climb out. Its body crashed again and again against the stone until finally it lay still, defeated. Daniel fell to his knees, gasping for air, his body shaking with exhaustion. He had survived, not with power but with wit. Above him the queen stood, her voice cut through the silence. The human has passed the trial of strength, not with muscle but with cunning. His blood holds more than power, it holds survival. The crowd erupted into mixed cries, some of awe, some of rage. Rival warriors glared at Daniel with hate, in their eyes. They had wanted him to die. Instead, he had triumphed. Daniel looked up at the queen, his chest still heaving. She watched him closely, her expression unreadable. Then she spoke again. "You are worthy, for now." Chains were fastened to his wrists once more, and he was dragged from the arena. As the crowd roared behind him, Daniel realized the trial was only the beginning. He had proven his strength, but the real danger was yet to come, because in the shadows of the fortress, enemies whispered. They would not allow a human to become their chosen male so easily, and Daniel knew. His fight for survival had only just begun. The fortress was alive with noise that evening. The trial of strength had ended, and the Amazons could not stop speaking about the human who had outsmarted the beast. Some praised him, whispering that perhaps the prophecy was real. Others scoffed, saying it was only luck and that he was still weak compared to their warriors. Daniel sat chained in a chamber lit by torches. His body ached from the fight, but his mind burned with questions. He had survived, yes, but what came next? Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the beast's glowing red eyes and felt its hot breath against his face. Survival had been pure desperation. The heavy doors creaked open and guards entered. Without a word, they pulled Daniel to his feet and dragged him down a long hall. He tried to resist, but the glowing shackles tightened whenever he pulled back. He had no choice but to walk. They entered a vast throne hall. The ceiling rose high above, painted with scenes of battles, fire, and victory. Stone pillars lined the hall, each carved with the faces of long-dead queens. And there, at the far end, upon a throne of crystal and bone, sat the Amazon queen. Her golden eyes locked on Daniel the moment he entered. She did not blink, did not look away, as if she was reading his very soul. Her presence filled the room with power. The guards forced Daniel to kneel, but even on his knees he felt the weight of her gaze pressing down on him. The hall fell silent. The queen rose slowly from her throne, each step echoing through the chamber. She descended the stairs, her long cloak trailing behind her like a river of fire. The other warriors bowed their heads as she passed, but Daniel could not look away. When she reached him, she circled him slowly, like a predator circling prey. Her voice rang clear. "You fought the beast and lived. That is no small thing. Many of our own have fallen in that trial. And yet," she paused, her eyes narrowing, "you did not win with strength. You won with cunning. You tricked the beast." The crowd of warriors shifted uneasily, murmurs spreading. Some nodded with respect. Others frowned, their eyes full of doubt. Daniel clenched his fists. His voice was hoarse, but he forced himself to speak. "I did what I had to do. I survived." "Isn't that enough?" The queen stopped in front of him. Her golden eyes burned into his. "Enough for now," she said. "But strength is more than muscles. Strength is also the will to fight, the will to protect, the will to endure. Perhaps that is why the prophecy chose you. The word prophecy hung in the air like a heavy weight. Daniel frowned. What prophecy? He demanded. The queen tilted, her head slightly, her expression unreadable. Long ago it was foretold that when our bloodline began to weaken, a male from the stars would come. He would not match us in body, but in his spirit, he would carry the strongest genes in the galaxy. He would father a new generation, one that would restore our people's greatness. Her words made Daniel's blood run cold. So it was true. They had not chosen him by mistake. They had been searching for him, or someone like him, all along. But before he could speak again, a voice cut through the hall, through lies. The crowd parted as a tall warrior stepped forward. Her armor was darker, her eyes sharp with rage. She knelt briefly before the queen, then turned her glare on Daniel. He is no warrior. He is weak. He used tricks to survive. He does not deserve the honor of being our chosen male. The hall erupted into shouts, some agreeing, some protesting. The queen raised her hand, and silence fell again. She studied the rival warrior. You doubt him? The warrior slammed her spear into the floor. I do. I challenge him. Let him face me, and then we shall see if he is worthy. Daniel's heart sank. Another fight. He had barely survived the beast. Facing one of these towering warriors seemed impossible. The queen looked from the rival warrior back to Daniel. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she stepped closer to him, her voice low so only he could hear. They will not accept you easily. They fear you, and they envy you. If you wish to live, you must prove yourself again. Show them you are more than prey. Show them you are fire. Daniel's mouth went dry. He wanted to refuse, to shout that he was just a man, not their savior. But deep inside, something stirred. A stubborn spark. He had survived once. Perhaps he could survive again. The queen turned to the hall and raised her spear high. The human has been tested once. He will be tested again. Tomorrow he faces one of our own. If he survives, none shall question him again. The hall shook with cheers and roars. Daniel's chains were pulled tight as the guards dragged him away. As he was led back to the dark cell, his thoughts raced. He had faced a beast and lived, but facing one of these Amazons was different. They were fast, trained, and merciless. He had no weapons, no armor, no allies. And yet, he remembered the queen's words, "Show them you are fire." That night, Daniel sat in silence, his mind torn between fear and determination. In the darkness, he whispered to himself, I will not be broken. Not by beast, not by queen, not by warrior. If they want a fight, I'll give them one. But outside his cell, in the shadowed halls of the fortress, the rival warrior whispered to others. She would not only fight him, she would make sure he never left the arena alive. The night was long and heavy in Daniel's cell. The stone walls closed in around him and the air was damp and cold. He had faced the beast, he had stood before the queen, and now he was ordered to fight one of the Amazons themselves. He knew the coming trial could be his end. But as he sat, in silence, the iron door creaked open. Daniel tensed, ready for more guards. Instead, a single figure slipped inside. She moved quietly, her steps light, her eyes watchful. She was one of them, a young Amazon warrior. Unlike the others, she was smaller, though still taller than Daniel. Her armor was plain, her long hair braided simply. She carried no spear, no shield. Instead, she held a bowl of water and a bundle of herbs. Daniel narrowed his eyes. Another guard, or come to laugh at me? The woman shook her head quickly. Her voice was soft, not harsh like the others. No, I am not here to mock you. I am here to help. He frowned. Help? Why? You're one of them. She set the bowl beside him and knelt. Yes, I am. But I saw what you did in the arena. You fought with no weapon, no training, and still, you lived. That took courage. I do not want you to die tomorrow. Daniel studied her. She seemed nervous, glancing toward the door as if afraid to be seen. He finally asked, What's your name? She hesitated, then whispered, Lyra. Lyra dipped the herbs into the water and gently pressed them against the wounds on Daniel's shoulder. He winced, but did not pull away. The herbs stung, then cooled, easing the pain. "You shouldn't be here," Daniel muttered. "If your queen finds out—" Lyra shook her head. "She would punish me." "Yes, but I cannot stand by. You are not like the others say. You are not weak." Her words caught Daniel off guard. No one here had called him strong before. Only human. Only chosen. Only breeding male. "Why do you care?" he asked. Lyra lowered her gaze. "Because I know what it feels like to be doubted, to be called less. I am smaller than the others, weaker, they say. They mock me, push me aside. But when I saw you face the beast, I saw myself in you. Fighting not because you wanted glory, but because you had no choice." Silence filled the cell. Daniel stared at her, seeing for the first time a crack in the wall of these towering warriors. Lyra was different, vulnerable. She looked up, her eyes shining. "Tomorrow they will try to break you, but you cannot fight like they do. Use your mind like before. Use their size against them." Daniel nodded slowly. "I don't know if I can survive, but thank you for this." Lyra gave a faint smile. "Do not thank me yet. If they see us together, they will call it betrayal." Her words hung heavy, in the air. Forbidden. Dangerous. Yet Daniel felt a warmth in his chest he had not felt since coming to this alien fortress. For a moment, their eyes held each other's. A silent bond formed. Fragile, but real. Then the sound of footsteps echoed down the hall. Lyra gasped and pulled back. She quickly gathered the herbs and water. Before leaving, she leaned close and whispered, "Survive, Daniel, for yourself, and for me." She slipped out just as the guards approached. Daniel sat back, stunned. He had not expected kindness here, not from anyone. But now he had something more than survival. He had someone who believed in him. The next morning, the fortress thundered with voices once again. The arena filled with warriors chanting for blood. At the center stood the rival Amazon who had challenged him, her spear gleaming, her eyes full of hate. Daniel was dragged out, chains clinking against the stone. As he stepped into the sunlight, he caught sight of Lyra in the crowd. She stood apart, her face calm but her eyes worried. Their gazes met for a brief instant. The queen rose from her throne, her voice ringing across the arena. "Today, the human faces one of our own. If he survives, his place is sealed. If he falls, his fate is ended." The crowd roared. The rival warrior slammed her spear into the ground, sparks flying. She shouted, "This human is no warrior. He is a trickster. Today I will end this lie." Daniel's heart pounded. He had no weapon, no armor, only his wits, and the memory of Lyra's whispered words. Use their size against them. As the rival warrior stepped forward, the crowd eager for blood, Daniel knew the fight ahead was more than survival. If he lost, he would die. If he won, he would not only prove himself, but he would also protect the bond he now carried in his heart. The queen lowered her hand, and the trial began. The arena floor was stained with dust and sweat. Daniel stood opposite the rival Amazon warrior, his body tense, his heart racing. Around them, thousands of voices roared for blood. The queen's golden eyes watched from her throne, calm and unblinking. The rival warrior was a giant, her spear gleaming, her muscles hard as stone. She smirked at Daniel as if he were a child. "You should have died yesterday, human. Today I will finish what the beast could not." Daniel said nothing. He remembered Lyra's whispered words. Use their size against them. He knew he couldn't win by meeting her strength head-on. He had to think. The queen gave the signal. The rival warrior charged. Her spear slashed down, fast and deadly. Daniel barely rolled aside, the blade cutting a deep scar into the dirt. The crowd cheered. She attacked again, each strike faster, harder, forcing him to dodge, stumble, and dive. His body ached, his lungs burned, but he refused to fall. Finally, she thrust her spear straight at his chest. Daniel sidestepped and grabbed the shaft with both hands. For a moment they struggled, her power against his desperation. With a sudden twist, he pulled her forward, using her own strength to throw her off balance. The giant warrior stumbled, crashing into the dirt. The crowd gasped. Daniel snatched a broken piece of stone from the ground and pressed it against her throat. Silence. Daniel's chest heaved as he shouted, "I will not be your victim. If I live, it will be because I fought. Not because of your chains, not because of your rules." The queen raised her hand. "Enough." The rival warrior glared up at Daniel, humiliated, but she did not move. Slowly, Daniel dropped the stone and stepped back. The queen's voice echoed across the arena. "The human has proven himself again. Twice tested, twice survived. He is chosen." The crowd erupted, some in cheers, some in anger. Daniel's chains were refastened and he was dragged back toward the fortress. For a moment his eyes met Lyra's in the crowd. She gave the smallest nod, relief flashing across her face. But deep in the shadows of the arena, the rival warriors' allies gathered. Their faces were hard, their voices low with rage. "The queen favors him. If we wait, he will become untouchable. Then we cannot wait." That night Daniel lay in his cell, exhausted, his body covered in bruises. He thought of Lyra's quiet strength, of the queen's cold judgment, and of the hatred in the rival warrior's eyes. Sleep came slowly, but near midnight, the cell door creaked open. Daniel sat up sharply. At first he thought it was Lyra again, but this time, 3 warriors entered, faces covered, weapons in hand. His blood turned cold. They whispered, "The prophecy is a lie. The human must die." Before Daniel could react, they lunged. He dove aside as a blade slashed across the stone where his head had been. The chain on his ankle clinked loudly as he scrambled backward. One warrior struck, her spear aimed at his chest. Daniel grabbed the chain and yanked it hard, tripping her. She crashed into the wall, but another warrior seized him from behind, pinning his arms. The third raised her blade to strike. Daniel fought with all his strength, twisting, kicking, but the warrior's grip was iron. The blade came down, then stopped, a flash of steel. A scream. The warrior holding the blade fell, clutching her side. Behind her stood Lyra, breathing hard, a stolen dagger in her hand. "Run!" she cried. Daniel tore free, and together they bolted from the cell. The other assassins chased them, their shouts echoing through the dark halls. Guards turned, confused, some trying to stop them, others frozen in shock. Daniel and Lyra sprinted through the fortress, up stairways and down corridors. Every corner brought danger, every shadow a hunter. His lungs burned, his legs screamed, but Lyra pulled him forward, her eyes blazing with determination. Finally, they burst into the open air. The jungle stretched before them, dark and endless. But behind them, horns blared. The fortress had discovered the escape. Daniel gasped. "They'll never stop chasing us." Lyra tightened her grip on his hand. "Then we keep running. You cannot die tonight, not to them." Branches whipped at their faces as they plunged into the jungle. Behind them, armored feet thundered closer and closer, and Daniel realized the truth. This was no longer just about survival. This was betrayal. War inside the fortress itself. Someone wanted him dead. No matter what the queen had declared, the Tiwar. Stars above flickered through the canopy as he and Lyra ran. Somewhere in the shadows, enemies hunted them. Somewhere in the fortress, the queen would soon learn of the attack. But Daniel's mind was locked on one thought. He was not safe anywhere now. Not in the cell. Not in the arena. Not even in the queen's judgment. And as the jungle swallowed them, the sound of hunters grew louder. The betrayal had only begun. The jungle was alive with shadows. Daniel and Lyra ran through the dense undergrowth, branches whipping their faces, roots clawing at their feet. Behind them, the horns of pursuit echoed. The rival warriors had unleashed the hunt. Daniel's chest heaved as he gasped for air. "They'll catch us." Lyra's eyes burned in the dark. "Not if we keep moving. The jungle is dangerous, but it can be our shield." They pressed on, The sounds of pursuit grew closer. Shouts, the crash of heavy armor, the snap of branches. The Amazons were relentless, their tall figures moving like predators. Daniel's legs burned, but he forced himself forward, clinging to Lyra's hand. At last they stumbled into a small clearing. A fallen tree blocked part of the path and torches flickered in the distance. They had seconds to act. Lyra looked around quickly. Here. She pulled Daniel down beside the fallen tree. Together they crouched low, holding their breath as shadows passed by. Warriors stomped past, their spears glinting in the torchlight. One paused, sniffing the air like a wolf. Daniel felt his heart hammer against his ribs. If she turned, they were finished. But the warrior moved on and the hunt thundered deeper into the jungle. Silence fell again, broken only by the call of strange night birds. Daniel let out the breath he had been holding. That was too close. Lyra touched his arm. We cannot hide forever. They will not stop. He nodded, wiping sweat from his face. Then we fight. Lyra blinked. Fight? There are too many. Daniel's eyes scanned the clearing. Maybe I can't win by fighting them head on, but I can make them afraid. I can use the jungle the way I used the arena. Lyra studied him, then nodded slowly. Fire, she whispered. Daniel looked at her, startled. Fire? She pointed to the fallen tree. Dry vines and leaves surrounded it. Fire spreads fast here. It will blind them, confuse them. It will give us a chance. Daniel hesitated. Fire could also trap them. But the hunt was closing in and they had no time. Together they gathered dry branches and leaves. Lyra struck stones until sparks flew, and soon flames licked the wood. Smoke rose, curling into the canopy. The fire spread quickly, eating the vines, climbing the branches. The first hunters appeared at the edge of the clearing, their eyes widening at the sudden wall of fire. Daniel picked up a burning branch and swung it high. The flames roared, and the hunters stepped back, uncertain. Daniel shouted, his voice fierce. Come for me if you dare. But know this, you will not take me as prey. I will burn before I bow. The flames spread wider, crackling, snapping, sending sparks into the night. Smoke rolled through the trees, making the hunters cough and stumble. Some retreated, others circled, but none dared rush through the fire. Lyra's eyes widened. Daniel, you've turned the jungle against them. He held the torch high, his face lit by the blaze. I don't want to die, Lyra. Not here, not like this. If I have to fight, I'll fight with everything I have. For the first time, Lyra smiled through the fear. That is why they fear you. Not because of your body, but because of your fire. The flames surged, driving the hunters back. Daniel and Lyra slipped through the smoke, moving deeper into the jungle. They coughed and stumbled, but the fire behind them kept the warriors at bay. After what felt like hours, they collapsed beside a stream. Daniel dropped the burning branch and plunged his hands into the cool water. His body trembled with exhaustion. Lyra knelt beside him, washing ash from her face. For a long moment, they said nothing. Only the crackle of distant fire and the rush of water filled the air. Finally, Lyra spoke softly. You changed everything tonight. No man has ever defied them like this. Daniel shook his head, breathing hard. I don't want to be their chosen. I don't want to be their breeding male. I just want to live. Lyra looked at him, her eyes deep and searching. Maybe destiny doesn't care what you want. Maybe it chose you for a reason. Her words lingered in the air. Daniel didn't answer, but inside a storm raged. He had never believed in prophecy, never believed in fate. But the Queen's words, the trials, the bond forming between him and Lyra, was this all part of something bigger? Before he could speak, a howl echoed through the jungle. Not human, not Amazon. Something else. The jungle's own beasts had been awakened by the fire. Lyra stood quickly, her hand on Daniel's arm. We cannot rest yet. The fire gave us time, but it also drew other dangers. Daniel rose slowly, his body aching but his eyes burning. The fire had not just saved them, it had lit something inside him, a resolve, a strength he had not known he carried. He looked toward the dark jungle ahead. Then we keep moving. If they want to test me again, let them. I'll show them I'm not just surviving, I'm fighting for my own destiny now. The night swallowed them once more, the flames fading behind. But within Daniel, the fire still burned. And for the first time, he began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, the prophecy was true. The jungle stretched endlessly before them, thick with mist and the cries of unseen beasts. Daniel and Lyra moved carefully along the stream, every sound making their hearts race. Behind them, the fire still burned, and the smoke curled high into the night sky like a signal. The Amazons would not stop searching. Daniel's body ached, but his spirit burned stronger than ever. He had survived the beast, he had defeated a warrior, he had escaped assassins. Yet the greatest challenge still waited, the Queen's final decision. As dawn approached, Lyra stopped. She looked back at the distant fortress walls, glowing faintly in the morning light. Her voice was low. "We cannot run forever. The Queen will call for you. If you refuse, the others will never stop hunting." Daniel clenched his fists. "Then what choice do I have? Stay and be their breeding male? A prisoner in chains?" Lyra hesitated, her eyes sad. "If you leave, you may die in the jungle. But if you stay, you may change everything. The prophecy speaks of one who would bring new strength. Perhaps it is not about blood alone. Perhaps it is about spirit." Daniel stared at her. He had grown to trust Lyra, but the thought of being bound forever to a people who saw him as a tool made his stomach twist. Yet running meant leaving her, and perhaps dooming her to punishment for helping him. Before he could answer, the jungle trembled with the sound of drums. Warriors emerged from the shadows, their spears glowing with light. They surrounded Daniel and Lyra, cutting off every escape. The crowd parted, and the Queen stepped forward. Her golden eyes blazed in the morning sun. She carried no weapon, yet her presence was more powerful than any blade. "Human," she said, her voice echoing. "You flee, you burn, you fight. Yet still you cannot escape your fate. Today you choose. Remain and become the father of our future, or refuse and die here." The warriors slammed their spears into the ground, the sound like thunder. Lyra's hand tightened on Daniel's. Daniel looked around. He saw their hatred, their envy, their hunger. But he also saw something else. Curiosity. Some of the warriors did not look at him with contempt. They looked at him with something closer to respect. He took a deep breath, his voice steady. "I will not be your prisoner. I will not be your chained breeding male. If I stay, it will be as more than that. If I stay, it will be as a free man. Equal, not tool. Father, not captive." The crowd erupted in shouts. Some cried for his blood. Others murmured in awe. The Queen raised her hand and silence fell, her golden eyes locked on him. "You demand equality among us? You dare to stand as one of us?" Daniel did not flinch. "I dare. Because strength is not only in muscles, it is in courage, in fire. You saw it when I faced the beast. You saw it when I fought your warrior. I am not here by chance. Maybe your prophecy was right. But if I am to help shape your future, it will be on my own terms." For a long moment, the Queen was silent. The warriors shifted uneasily. Lyra held her breath. Finally, the Queen spoke. Her voice was like iron. "Then so it shall be." Gasps echoed through the ranks. The Queen turned to her people. "Twice he has proven himself. He is no longer prey. He is no longer chained. He is chosen, not as a slave, but as fire that will shape us. From this day forward, he stands as one of us." The warriors shouted, some in anger, some in triumph. The rival warrior snarled, her eyes full of fury, but she could not defy the Queen's decree. Lyra's eyes shone with relief. She whispered, "You did it. You changed everything." Daniel felt the weight of his journey pressing on him. He was still afraid of what his future meant, afraid of the responsibility the Queen had placed on his shoulders. But deep inside, he knew he had won something greater than survival. He had won his freedom. The Queen stepped closer, her golden eyes unblinking. Do not mistake this gift for safety. You will be tested again. The galaxy will test you. But for now, you are ours. Daniel met her gaze without fear. No. For now I am my own. And if I stay, it will be because I choose. The Queen studied him for a moment, then gave the faintest nod. She turned away, her cloak sweeping behind her, her voice carrying across the jungle. The prophecy is fulfilled. The strongest genes in the galaxy are not only in flesh, but in spirit. As the warriors began to disperse, Daniel felt Lyra's hand slip into his. For the first time since his capture, he allowed himself to breathe. The jungle was still dangerous, the Amazon still fierce, but he had found something here, a place where he could fight, not as prey, but as a man. And as the rising sun painted the sky gold, Daniel realized the truth. His choice had not only changed his fate, it had changed the destiny of the alien Amazons forever.